Under the fading golden light of a peaceful Ohio suburban afternoon, life seemed to follow a pre-written script. Children played on lush green lawns, and the neighborhood's silence was broken only by the rustling of leaves. Yet, in that moment, the air suddenly thickened. A low-frequency vibration echoed across the asphalt, followed by a sound that did not belong to this area code, a heavy breath emanating from deep within a great wild chest. From the corner, near a familiar coffee shop, the king appeared. A full-grown African lion, majestic and imposing, his golden mane swaying as he strolled past parked SUVs. Terror didn't just rise, it exploded. People scrambled for cover. Shop doors were bolted by trembling hands. The world seemed to hold its breath, waiting for an inevitable tragedy. But amidst the chaos, one figure remained motionless. Eleanor, an elderly woman, sat quietly on a park bench, her bag of birdseed forgotten beside her. As the 400-pound predator locked eyes with her and began his approach, onlookers behind glass windows braced for the worst. However, what happened next defied every law of nature we thought we knew. It wasn't a hunt, it was a homecoming. To understand why a lion was wandering through a suburban park, we must travel back in time to where Leo lived. Leo was no ordinary lion. To the zoo staff, he was an icon with eyes full of melancholy and a distinctive limp in his front paw. Leo had always been the sanctuary's calmest resident, often seen observing visitors with a strangely searching gaze rather than pacing restlessly like other big cats. On that fateful morning, an unexpected electrical surge caused by nearby construction paralyzed the high-tech security gates of the predator enclosure. While the other animals stayed in their dens, Leo did something no one expected. He didn't roar, nor did he attack. He simply used his massive paw to nudge the iron gate, realized the latch was loose, and stepped out. Astonishingly, Leo bypassed the stockpiles of fresh meat and ignored the panicked screams of the handlers. It was as if an invisible compass was embedded in his heart, guiding him toward a specific destination. He slipped through a service entrance and vanished into the city. The zookeepers were utterly baffled. Lions are highly territorial. They rarely abandon food and shelter unless driven by an incredibly powerful instinct. But Leo wasn't looking for a meal. He was searching for a soul from his past. As he moved through the streets, the logic of the wild seemed to dissolve. Leo wasn't acting like a predator invading new territory. He was navigating. He moved with urgency, scenting the air and turning corners with purpose, ignoring the screeching tires of cars swerving to avoid him. At the zoo, the head ranger, Thomas, realized something unusual. Looking at the security footage, he noticed Leo wasn't heading for the forest or crowded malls. He was heading toward the old historic district, where, decades ago, a small private wildlife rescue center once stood.
Think about it.
Thomas began to piece together fragments of a story he had heard in whispers when he first started, the story of a woman who had once performed a miracle for a dying lion cub. It was a bond that time, it seemed, could not erode. 13 years ago, Eleanor was a younger woman with a completely different life. She spent her long days at a small private sanctuary that took in cases everyone else had given up on. One rain-soaked evening, a wooden crate was left at her doorstep. Inside was a tiny, shivering lion cub. He had been rescued from a harsh environment, his front leg shattered and his spirit nearly broken. The veterinarians back then shook their heads. They said he wouldn't survive the night. But Eleanor refused to accept that. She set up a cot right in the nursery and stayed by his side 24 hours a day. She named him Leo. For months, she was his entire world. She bottle-fed him every few hours, carefully massaged his healing leg to prevent muscle atrophy, and whispered soothing stories as he drifted to sleep beside her. Eleanor wasn't just a caregiver. She was his mother, protector, and the bridge that brought him back to the land of the living. Due to the severity of the injury, Leo's bone healed slightly misaligned, creating his signature limp, but his heart was stronger than ever. They shared a bond that transcended species. Leo would purr so loudly it vibrated the floor whenever she entered the room, and she understood every nuance of his vocalizations. However, a small sanctuary could not be a permanent home for a growing king. When Leo reached a size where keeping him in a residential setting became impossible, Eleanor had to make the hardest decision of her life. She found him the best zoo in the state, a place with vast space and professional care. She spent an entire week sleeping in Leo's new enclosure to help him with the transition, then walked away with a breaking heart. Soon after, life took Eleanor far away to care for her own ailing relatives. The years turned into a decade. She assumed Leo had long since forgotten the scent of lavender soap and the sound of her humming Amazing Grace. She eventually returned to the city in retirement, living a quiet life, never realizing that her little cub was only a few miles away, now a majestic king, still carrying the memory of her warmth in every cell of his DNA. Back in the park, the air was so thick it felt like it might shatter with the slightest noise. Police snipers were in position, red laser dots dancing across Leo's golden
Target
fur.
acquired.
Thomas, the ranger, arrived just in time to witness the impossible. Leo had reached the bench where Eleanor sat. Instead of the screams of terror everyone expected, a profound, sacred silence enveloped the space. Eleanor looked up, her eyes brimming with tears, and whispered, "My goodness, is it really you, my sweet boy?" Leo did not hesitate. The image of the fearsome predator vanished completely. He let out a soft chuff, a greeting reserved only for lions who are extremely close. He lowered his massive head into Eleanor's lap, letting his thick mane brush against her coat. Eleanor's hands, though trembling with age, reached out and sank deep into his thick fur, scratching behind his ears exactly the way she did when he was a cub. In those few minutes, the park, the police, the cameras, and all danger ceased to exist. There were only two old friends reuniting after a lifetime apart. Thomas realized that if the police fired a tranquilizer now, Leo might jump in shock and accidentally hurt Eleanor. Or worse, the police might mistake a sudden movement for an attack and use lethal force. He stepped forward, signaling the officers to lower their weapons. He approached the bench slowly and watched as Leo looked at him, not with aggression, but with a calm, steady gaze that seemed to say, "I found her." Eleanor spoke softly to Leo, her voice acting as a soothing melody that seemed to hypnotize the entire area. She told him he was a good boy, that he had been very brave, and that it was time to go back to his safe place. It was a masterclass in the power of gentleness. Under the stunned and watchful eyes of the entire city, Eleanor stood up. She began to walk toward the zoo transport vehicle that had just arrived. And Leo, the great king of the savannah, followed her like a loyal dog, his shoulder pressed against her hip, his limp synchronizing with her slow, elderly pace. He wasn't being captured. He was being escorted by the only person in the world he truly trusted. The story of Leo and Eleanor did not end in the park that day. It became a new, more humane beginning. The zoo realized that their security breach was actually a profound lesson in animal psychology. They decided to grant Eleanor an unprecedented privilege, a lifetime bond pass. Every Tuesday and Thursday morning, a special chair was placed against the reinforced glass of Leo's habitat. The king would spend hours pressing his body against the glass, letting out happy grunts while Eleanor read the morning paper or told him about her day. Leo's health improved visibly. He ate better, and the loneliness that the handlers hadn't previously recognized vanished completely. When Eleanor passed away peacefully in her sleep 2 years later, the zoo noticed something extraordinary. Leo didn't roar or pace frantically. He sat quietly by the glass at the exact hour she usually appeared, letting out a single, long call that echoed throughout the sanctuary. He knew she was gone, but he also knew she had loved him until her very last breath. In her will, Eleanor left a small endowment, not for statues or flashy plaques, but to create a massive sensory garden for the big cats, filled with the scent of lavender and wild grasses, the smells Leo loved most. This story reminds us that in a world that can sometimes feel cold and disconnected, kindness is a universal language. It suggests that no act of love is ever truly lost. Whether it is a lion cub or a human in need, the care we give ripples outward, creating connections that time and distance cannot break. We often label animals as wild or different, but Leo showed us they are capable of loyalty and memory on a level that should make humans reflect on themselves. He didn't choose freedom, he chose his friend. If this story touched your heart, please hit the like button and share it with someone who needs a reminder that miracles still exist in everyday life. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Do you believe animals have souls that remember us? Your stories of connection are what drive us to keep this journey going, bringing more light and hope to the world each week. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a magical moment. Thank you for listening, and always remember, never underestimate the power of a gentle hand.